Today I'm bringing to you 2 games against Sakazuki, and with Worlds around the corner, there's a lot of conversation about something getting banned out of this deck, and with that in mind, let's go over these 2 games and see if that has any merit whatsoever. Enjoy. This first game ends up being particularly long, honestly. We are on the play, so we start off with the Buggy grabbing a Mr. 1, so not a bad start. Honestly, I was hoping to grab maybe like a Brick Fist or a Deathwink or something. A Brick Fist honestly would have been like really good here, honestly, because they're going to be on the draw, so they're going to go into 4 Dawn, they're going to play their Kuzan on curve, and I'm going to be able to like bounce that if I had a Brick Fist. So honestly, that would be a pretty big tempo play, but regardless, we go to 3 Dawn, and the Dawn honestly does mess us up a little bit here. We do not find any Brick Fist, which is kind of where the problem is, and at this point, just thinking about how I even manage this, because I do end up whipping all 5 cards. So I just got to figure out how I want to bounce that, how I want to manage that there. And there's nothing really for me to do. So I'm just going to swing kind of at lead, get my mill effect on, and then keep going. Because unfortunately, like, having another Deathwink in hand makes this hand terrible. It's actually really bad, and like no way to kind of mill through, get a Kaya through. I actually ended up mulliganing for this, so provide some further context for that. I'm gonna Spada, rearrange the top card of my deck here, and just figure out if I want it on the top or at the bottom. I'm gonna leave it on top in that order, kind of pass the turn from there. They're gonna use leader effect, and then play the Rob Lucci here, ping both of my Buggies. Unfortunate. Draw a card there. I'm going to Nojiko, bounce the Rob Lucci, play my Mr. 1, get my rubber band back, and then pass the turn from there. So, in my opinion, this is not going too bad so far. It's a good little tempo play right there, just kind of stopping them from using that Dawn there. But really what it's going to come down to is, can we manage our draws here? We're going to have to Gavel a Deathwink away. That's just the truth of the situation here, right? So I'm going to rubber band mill 1 there, which is great, and Impel down going, but kind of wish that was in my triggers. They're going to swing 5k there. I'm going to go rubber band, pitch a Deathwink, mill 2. I have to enable my draws here, right? And they're going to play the kind of blocker here, and they're going to figure out what they want to play, how they want to do it, and it's going to end up being that Hina coming in tap, so that's not going to be great there. They're going to use leader effect. I'm going to go to a bunch more Dawn here, 7 specifically, and drawing a card. I figure out, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, how I want to do this, how I want to get some attacks in. I'm going to swing kind of 3k into that brand new there, and try and like force some counters, try and force some blocks. I'm going to go 3k into the brand new. They're going to block with the blocker as well. Mr. 1 is going to grab my rubber band back, and then I can go rubber band into Deathwing. Honestly, not too bad so far, right? I managed to like make a pretty bad situation into a good one. This is the way you got to kind of maneuver, set up your draws. A peel off at instant speed is exactly what I want to do. Mill some cards there. They're going to pay 2 Dawn after the attack. And they're going to choose what to bottom deck, and that is going to go to the bottom right there. Adding cards to my deck, not great, not great. And then we're going to kind of draw 2 off the brand new trigger, which is unfortunate because we're going to have to take a hit off the leader effect here. Now, I have the Gavel here, figuring out how I want to do this, what I want to do here. Unfortunately, they're not really tapped out, so bouncing the Hina doesn't have a terrible amount of value, but I think it has the tempo value that it needs. They're going to play the Rob Lucci, ping my cards there, and then that's perfectly fine, right? Like, so we do get some amount of value out of it, forcing some cards out of there, and now my leader is just kind of naked by itself. I'm going to attach a Dawn, swing in, and kill the brand new, just to make sure that like it doesn't get countered out like that easily. And that way, I can draw some cards, make some things happen. Unfortunately, drawing the Impel there is really bad. I'm going to Deathwing to counter out. No draws. The draws are actually ending up like terrible here. Like, what is this set of draws here? And they're going to play a Borsalino. They're going to then play 3 for the Hina. And they're going to play the other Hina, not the one that draws a card. They're like, all right, I'm going to take that back. So we draw a card. We play the peel off. We draw into more dead cards that don't have a lot of value. So we're going to have to think about how we want to do this here. And I'm thinking deep in my think tank right now. I'm gonna swing 6k at the Rob Lucci, just force some cards out of their hand, because I'm like, eventually this may matter. And then what I'm going to do, 1 Dawn, and then just literally play the Impel down to discard 2 cards from my hand. Then play the Zeff, pass the turn. I'm going to take some hits. The situation is literally this bad. It's literally this bad. My hands have been absolutely awful. I have these cards that are stuck in my hand doing nothing. I might as well force the situation on a Zeff, have them use some active cards, use up Dawn, and then just take less damage on some hits. Like, I don't know. This matchup is becoming like really a nightmare. Anyway, the first hit I take is Sanji's trigger, which is fantastic. And then I take a second hit off leader. I'm going to bounce the Borsalino, which is huge tempo, by the way. So then they're going to have to pay 4 Dawn to play it again. Then they're going to play the Hina as well. I kind of a baited attack there. And so this is great. Okay, so you know what? We did have to make a weird play, but our triggers ended up working out for us. So now I want to figure out what I want to do here. I'm a little, kind of more than halfway through my deck here. And I'm going to bounce a Borsalino. And then what I'm going to do is with this Zeff, figure out like how much I want to attack with. I'm going to Kaya. And which I'm happy I did here, because I'm going to like discard 2 cards to the Deathwing, or sorry, not to the Deathwing. I'm going to decide to play the Zeff here, because ultimately I realized like the pressure is probably going to be key here. Play the Zeff, bounce the Hina, and then realize like, okay, opponent, you got to have multiple Borsalinos. I've been bouncing the same Borsalino and interacting with it over and over again. If you have multiple blockers for these Zeffs, then that's what it's going to have to be. So Zeff goes, that's perfectly fine. That's kind of just lightning rodded into that. Like, I don't have to take any damage from my leader, and they have to find multiple ways to now deal with my stuff. And this is the type of like time walking that we want to be doing here. My bad on the pause there, but really, this is the type of tempo that you want to do to force your opponent to use Dawn to make like subpar attacks. Anyway, they find both Barsalinos, and then we're going to Sanji's peel off here, and then really count up the rest of my deck here. And while I stutter my way through this kind of live commentary here, I am going to play a Kaya, draw 2, discard 2, find myself some options, but not great ones. Unfortunately, the double Borsalino actually might just seal this up. That's really what this ends up being. The double Borsalino may just, kind of thing this up. And I figure out like, okay, how much do I really want to commit to an attack? What do I want to do here? And I think I probably could have used 1 more Dawn to like commit more, but I wanted to swing a little wider with the Nami, just force out multiple attacks there. Cause I'm like, okay, if they just have 2Ks in hand, I can just force out like multiple 2Ks. And I guess it'd be the same thing if I did kind of attack that way, but regardless, use some leader ability, use the Great Eruption, whatever. And then they're going to play the Hina to draw them some cards. And I don't have a terrible hand right now, kind of the double. Like, I get to go through 3 cards with this hand. So it's not terrible. The problem is that, like, I'm kind of drawing dead. I know that, like, the Nojiko is the last card in my deck. And I have, like, a bunch of Zeffs at the bottom, too, based on that second whiff on the Buggy, I should say. And so this is where things are going to get tricky. It's all going to depend on how this kind of last trigger works. I'm going to counter that out, mill 1. And then they're going to pay 4 for another Borsalino and not attack. Very smart from our opponent, by the way. Just not attacking is completely correct. And I'm thinking like, okay, how do I get through this? Because there have been so many bad whiffs this game. Some of my triggers have been awful. So I have to use a Brickfist just to, bounce the Kaya, play the Kaya, draw 2, and then discard 2 from here. And I just need to go through my deck, really. I need to spin my wheels a little bit, and then draw 2, discard 2 off the other Kaya that I find. And just really hope that these triggers matter. So I'm looking through my deck. I'm like, what is left here? And I'm kind of just forgetting at this point, like, what's at the bottom of my deck. I know, right now, hindsight being 2020, there's a couple of Zeffs. The Nojiko's at the bottom. It's honestly not that great whatsoever. So we're going to put that there. And we're just going to set up a... Love Beam to really try and draw us into something. Hopefully our last trigger is going to be something that is worth it here. So Zeff is going to swing in at lead. They're going to kind of block out with the Borsalino, which is completely fair. And I just got to pass from there. This is kind of the do or die turn here. Does our opponent have what it needs to win? I mean, with 4 attackers and 10 Dawn untapped, ooh, baby, it's not looking too good for us. But regardless here, we may have a chance. So let's see what our opponent does. They're deep in the thought well here. What do I have in my hand? Is it a Deathwing? What is it? And so they're asking me to kind of go through my deck. How many Deathwings do I have? And that's what they're asking me to count out there. And then they're going to attack in with the Hina. And then what, I'm going to take that hit because I got to maximize the amount of resources in my hand. So take that. No trigger. Because it's a character. Oh, my triggers are not working for me, and that's a game. So ultimately, that's fine. That's the way the first Sakazuki matchup ends up. The Zeffs ultimately ended up mattering. We played this pretty well with our bad resources, but if our triggers aren't going to work out for us like that, then that's GG's. Let's go to game 2. Hopping into game number 2 here, our opponent starts off on the play, and kind of no play from there. That is great. I untap with 2 Dawn, double Deathwink in my hand. You're going to notice that I mulligan for this hand, right? This is not a hand that I would keep. So regardless, we're going to have to pass through. Our opponent goes to 3 Dawn here. think about how they want to play this, and do they want to attach them Dawn? Do they want to raw swing with the card? They're going to swing in 6k. I'm going to counter out with the Spada, set up some cards at the top or bottom. I actually don't like any of those cards. Really, what I'm looking for is a Gavel to try and pitch some of these cards away, because it's getting really bad. They're going to play a brand new. They're just going to figure out like what they want to do, what they want to pick. And then ultimately they realize they only have like one target. Actually, there's like actually no thought involved into what they need to get. So they're like, all right, whatever, just grab that. So 4 Dawn on my side. And these Deathwinks are truly going to be the death of me right now. I need to be able to like mill over some cards, grab a Gavel, and just empty my hand absolutely to make anything work here. So we're going to pass the turn. Opponent goes to 5 Dawn here. It's kind of where things get a little tricky. They kind of use the leader ability there, and they figure out like how much Dawn they need to swing in with versus play cards from their hand. And I'm thinking like, yo, these Deathwinks are absolutely atrocious. They're terrible here. Right? Like this is where like a card like this gets really tough without some type of discard outlet in your hand, which is why Gavel is just like one of the best cards this deck can play in general. And so they're going to swing in 7k. This forces multiple kind of effects out of me. So I'm going to mill one there. And then I'm thinking like, do I want to counter out with the Mr. one? Yeah, I'm going to want to counter out with the Mr. one. I'm going to save the other attack in case they go in with the brand new. And that's what I need to save that for if they swing in 6 that way. But they end up playing a Hina, which is fine. Draw 1 card. And then you're going to notice it is a 3rd Deathwink. Folks, I think you're going to start to understand how this game is going to go and how far I'm going to have to climb just to make this work. That is an absolute nightmare of a set of draws here against a Sakazuki, against any player, honestly. 3 Deathwinks in my open. These are cards I want to see after going through 30 cards in my deck, because I'm probably going to have no cards left. So kind of counter those 2 attacks out there. And opponent's going to tap a bunch of Dawn, play out a Borsellino, leader effect, kind of discard, and then draw. And then from there, we're going to untap, go to draw a bunch of cards, go to less cards in hand. And at this point, oh, this is so desperate. This is so desperate. And folks, I know these are the type of things that you have to do. You can't do this on the sim, but these are the type of things that you have to do. And I have to think about first, okay, get in the attack. They're going to tap in with the Borsellino, 6k already, and then they're going to counter out that way. Fine, whatever. Just get that out of the way. I'm going to pass the turn, right? Because I can at least redraw with the Love Mellow here and maybe draw a Gum Gavel. If I can draw a Gavel, then we're cooking with gas. Because then we can go Gavel, we can go Mellow, draws into a Gavel to pitch the Impel down to Deathwink. We can make things happen. So we're going to redraw. Not that, but okay, fine. Usable card. I'll take it. Usable card. And then they're going to swing in. They're going to attach some Dawn. They're going to swing 5k. I'm going to rubber band mill 1. A Zeff, which honestly would have been great against this Hina right now, but that's perfectly fine. So they're thinking about like how they want to do this. They're going to swing in some K there. I'm going to Deathwink none here. They're going to play Luffy, playing a more aggressive version of this Sakazuki matchup here. And they're thinking like, what do you have in hand? How are you playing this out right now using a Deathwink like that? And they're thinking like, do they also swing with a Borsellino as well? They're ultimately going to do so. I'm going to take the hit. And then I'm just going to bluff my little Love Mellow here. Just, do a little slight pause, right? You got to get your bluffs in. I'm at 10 Dawn. I'm going to play the Kaya, draw 2, discard 2 cards. Finally, right? And then I'm thinking, okay, I got this much Dawn. Let's do some counting. Now that I have the Kaya to filter through my hand, how do I want to play this? I'm going to drop the Brick Fist. And then I'm going to play 5 Dawn, mill 2, bounce the Kaya back to my hand. Those are the 2 cards that I milled. And then I'm going to pay 1 Dawn to play it again. Or do I attach with the Nami leader? Well, first I'm going to swing in, and we get our little promo packs there. That's what that was. I'm going to swing in. They're going to figure out if they want to counter or not, because this ultimately just gets rid of like one more card that they can swing with, especially now that they essentially have a board of 5. So they're going to counter out there. That's fine. I'm going to play the Kaya, draw 2, discard 2. Now I can kind of set up a Deathwink like relatively well here, because I can go I can counter out with the Nojiko on a 5k attack if they attack with brand new. And then I can Deathwink, and that all depends on if they swing out that way. So let's see what they do. They might just end up getting smart with it here, and I might just have to take some hits, and that's ultimately how I have to manage that. So they're gonna swing 5k, which is great. Counter out with the Nojiko. That's a great way to start things off. Then they're gonna attach some Dawn and do another attack later. So regardless, the Hina's gonna come in, and then they're gonna replace the Rob Lucci, kind of that card there with the Rob Lucci here. Ping my 2 cards. with the -1 cost there. And then they're going to use leader ability. They're going to eventually use leader ability here. They're just kind of bottom decking some cards off the Rob Lucci, but Hina's going to swing in. I have to use Deathwink for that. They're going to swing in there, and I'm going to counter out with the Kaya. I don't want to take too much damage this turn. I'm going to take the hit there. Spada draws me 2. I discard. And honestly, these are the type of effects that I'm hoping to get later on. I'm at 3 life against this wide board, and I'm having to, kind of activate these cards right now. But honestly, the hand isn't terrible based on what's going on. And in order to attack out, I need to attach some Dawn thanks to this Borsalino. But the hand isn't terrible. I can go Spada, Gavel, Deathwink. It's not a terrible amount of cards. So I'm going to swing 6k at the Hina just to make sure I can get over top of the Borsalino. They're going to counter 2k. And then I'm going to play the bounce effect to their hand just to kind of eliminate some of the cards on board. So at this point, I have the amount of Dawn I need to really make this work. So they have a wide board, but if my triggers work for me, if they draw me some cards, it should be fine. So I'm going to mill 2. We're getting relatively low in deck, but we lose a peel off there. I'm going to Deathwing, draw 2 more cards. So we've gone through 4 cards, not bad. We're going to take some hits. Hopefully our triggers can work for us here. And they're thinking like, okay, do I swing 6k? Do I swing 7k? What do I do here? It's smart to swing 7k here as a Sakazuki player. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take the hit. We're going to rubber band, trigger, draw a card, mill 1, which is great. The Gavel is a great draw instead of the Buggy itself. And then we're going to take another hit here, bluff the Buggy hit. That is not a great card to kind of play out here. They're going to brand new. They're going to figure out what they want to get. To get their card back, they're going to Sakazuki effect, draw, discard. We're going to untap, draw a card, and then I have honestly still a fair amount of cards. I believe I counted 11 there, so it's not exactly like I can necessarily go for the win. I'm going to peel off, draw 2. I do find an Apis, so I can start spinning my wheels if I want to, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to Apis. I'm going to discard a bug. Well, I'm thinking the Buggy could get me something. I'm going to discard the Zeff and the Spada to figure out what I want to get here. Top 5 cards. I don't really want to be bouncing anything. And then I'm like, okay, I have the Kaya, I have the peel off. I think I have to get the peel off here. It can't be draw discard. I need like raw cards to really start winning because I think I can get like a Mr. One or everything, but this might actually end up being the bad call here. So I really want to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Should I have just gotten Kaya here? Because it's less Dawn to draw 2 cards. So I'm going to pay to draw my 2 cards here. And then I might have had like 2 more Dawn just to like make, because I would have just drawn the 2 cards I had off the peel off, right? And I might have been able to keep going through. I still think the Zeff discard was correct. I could have put the peel off at the bottom and then just relied on my last trigger to really make that work here. 1 Dawn. I'm gonna play the Kaya, draw 2, discard 2. That's what that Kaya is. Unfortunately, the light is kind of blocking that. I'm figuring out what I want to discard here. Probably just gonna be the Mellow and the Impel down here. And unfortunately, I'm actually 1 Dawn off of really making this work. I have 4 cards left in my deck, and I'm 1 Dawn off making this work. Honestly, if I drew the Kaya, it might have worked here. I might have actually been able to get through, but who knows? There's always that world of like, I might have just had to, play the peel off and do whatever, but I think the Kaya might have actually like really helped here, but we're going to ultimately see why there's certain removal spells in this deck that really change the game for it. I have 4 cards left here, and they're thinking, okay, double Gavel is what does it here for them. They are going to kind of leader ability there. They have a bunch of Dawn. They're trying to figure out how they want to separate it, the cards they want to use. And then firstly, what they're going to do is they're going to bottom deck one of my cards. And this essentially seals the game at this point. There's 5 cards. There's no way for me to get through 5 cards with this much Dawn, unless my trigger is absolutely insane, which, spoiler alert, it's not really going to be. So trigger gets me a character, and that's GG's right there. So let's see what happens to Sakazuki after Worlds. That's the game there. I'm excited to see what's happening in OP05, and GG's.